Welcome, traveler of twilight thoughts, wanderer of stilled hours. Tonight, let me guide you through a duskened path, into a land where the earth once pulsed beneath the bare feet of queens, where the trees whispered stories only the stars could decipher, and where a sisterhood of strength breathed deeply into silence before dawn. This is the kingdom of Dahomey. The year fades into the hush of the 19th century, and we find ourselves in the warm, ochre-stained capital of Abomi. It is evening. The sky is a slow spill of amber and plum. The fires have quieted to embers. Somewhere, a drum speaks in low syllables to the night. Here, in the shadows of high red clay walls, rest the warriors of the Mino, the Agoji, the mothers. They are women, yes, but forged from spirit and silence, from breath held through grief, from earth-touched rituals and the long hum of discipline. If you genuinely like my content, hit that like button and subscribe. And hey, let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what you think about this topic. It's really awesome to see how far and wide our audience in this channel. The air is fragrant with crushed baobab leaf and wood smoke. You can feel the warmth of the land beneath your feet, even in the hush of dusk. The walls around the palace catch the last of the sunlight, turning gold like the eye of a resting lion. In this kingdom, the king's fiercest protectors are not men, but women. Women who train before the sun and sleep only when the moon is high. Women whose hands are calloused not from labor, but from the grip of spears, the stock of rifles, the steady string of a bow. And yet, their eyes hold quiet, like rivers before rain. They do not shout. They do not rage. They do not march with thunder. Instead, they move with breath, in time with the wind, in rhythm with the fire. Tonight, as we drift deeper into this tale, you will walk where they have walked, feel what they have felt. The early thorns of training, the sacred rhythm of morning rituals, the long patience of warfare, not just of muscle, but of spirit. And as your thoughts grow quiet, like the fields beneath starlight, you may begin to understand why. Even one day within their world could ask more of you than you've ever known. But here now, we do not rush. We float. We breathe. And the story unfolds like smoke from an incense bowl. Slowly, warmly, without end. The first breath of dawn is not yet light, but a hush. A breeze that rolls over the still sleeping leaves. A pale exhale from the earth. In the courtyards of Abome, the Agoji rise not with alarm, but with rhythm. A low tone from a hollowed wooden bell murmurs across the compound, not commanding, but inviting. Wakefulness blooms softly, like a flower stretching in shadow. Their eyes open slowly. The body remembers before the mind does. Feet touch the cool earth, the breath long and smooth. Each movement is deliberate, no haste, no noise. In Dahomey, discipline is not harsh, it is sacred. It is breath met with breath, step met with step. From the central compound, the scent of charcoal and river mint stirs the air. One by one, the women file silently into a circle. Their garments, simple, cloth-wrapped elegance, flutter with the faint wind. They do not speak, for the morning is a place of reverence Even the sky watches in quiet awe. A priestess stands at the center. Her voice does not break the silence, it joins it. She sings in a tone that quivers through your spine like mist over water. She calls upon Mawu, the moon goddess, and Legba, keeper of crossroads. Their names are woven into song, into pulse, into movement. Hands rise, palms open to the east. The first light peeks through trees like liquid gold. It kisses their faces, their scars, their resolve. Then the breathwork begins. Deep, rhythmic, oceanic. Inhale, hold, exhale. Again, again, until the breath becomes the rhythm and the rhythm becomes the silence. They run, barefoot across damp earth, each footfall a prayer. Around the palace walls, over courtyards, under banyan shade. Not in a sprint, but in a flowing tempo. Like the rivers that carry secrets, they move not to conquer, but to align. And you, were you here, would already feel it. The fatigue, the ache in joints untested, the pulse racing faster than their serene flow. The morning rituals, quiet as they seem, are a crucible. But still they move. Still they breathe. Still they rise like the sun. One voice, elder and soft, chants above the others. What rises in silence rests in power. What trains in breath commands in stillness. So their morning unfurls. Not in frenzy, but in grace. Not in command, but in communion. And the day has only just begun. The sun climbs slow and golden, painting long, warm shadows on the training ground. The dew still lingers on the grass, but its coolness has already begun to yield to heat. And the agoji begin their trials. This is where the spirit is tested through the body, where strength is not declared, but drawn out like water from a deep well. They do not shout commands. There are no harsh cries, only the steady clap of hands, the murmur of steps, the crunch of bare feet on gravel and thorn. Each warrior is given a path, a winding, thorn-laced trail along which they must run. The thorns are not swept aside. They pierce, they scratch, they mock, but they do not deter. To the untrained, the pain would arrive like fire, wild and unwelcome. But the Mino breathe through it. The pain becomes a rhythm, the sting a heartbeat. With each step, they shed hesitation, like bark from a tree. Then come the climbs, walls of acacia, wood, and stone. With no tools but their hands, they scale and leap. Scraped palms, bleeding knuckles. These are not wounds, but offerings. Every motion is witnessed, not judged, but seen. For in Dahomey, endurance is sacred. It is a prayer made of movement. Later, they lift stones, heavy and smoothed by generations. They hold them above their heads as they walk, slow and deliberate. Their muscles tremble, but they do not falter. And when they rest, it is not on soft ground, but upon the very earth they train. Back to soil, eyes to sky, breath deep and slow. You too might lie down. Were you among them, already spent, already humbled, already shaped by earth and silence? But this is only the beginning. The first trials do not break them. They bend them gently, like reeds in wind, teaching the body how to yield without falling, how to hurt without halting. And the air carries it all away, the sweat, the ache, the unspoken fear, into the open sky of Dahomey. So the training goes on, and the day deepens, and you begin to understand. It is not just the body that is trained here. It is the breath. It is the spirit. It is the stillness between each motion, where transformation hums. The sun now stands taller, casting its warmth upon the wide clearing, where the ground has been pressed smooth by years of motion. Here, in a sacred space marked by sun and silence, the next rite unfolds, not of weapons, but of bodies. The Agogia gather in a circle once more, their breath already steady from the morning's trials. The earth beneath their feet is warm and dry, like a patient witness to their every movement. The elders chant softly, not for show, but to hold time still. 2 women step forward. They do not glare. They do not roar. They bow. And then, like the breeze pushing against itself, they collide, not with fury, but with focus. Their limbs intertwine, bodies low to the ground, dust curling into the air like incense. Every grip, every shift in balance is a lesson in presence. Each movement honors the body as a vessel of power. Around them, the others kneel, watching not with competition, but reverence. No strike is wasted, no breath taken in vain. The goal is not to win, but to withstand, to flow, to understand one's own edges. Then they rotate. New pairs, new bodies, new rhythms. Larger women against smaller, swift against still. All learning, all bending. Their fingers press against muscle and bone, reading the story written in sinew. They sense when to resist and when to yield. Each motion is an offering, a sacred tension balanced between control and surrender. The dust thickens, sweat pearls at brows, and runs in rivulets along the curve of collarbones. Feet shift, grip, and slide. There are no mats, no cushions. The land itself cradles each fall. Soon after, the calisthenics begin. Rows of warriors align like stalks of millet in a breeze. They move as one, arms rising, lowering, legs bending, straightening. Push after push, hold after hold, they carve strength into their bones. There are no counts, no shouted numbers, only the cadence of movement and the echo of breath. Each repetition a verse, each strain a hymn. Some collapse, not in defeat, but in devotion. Their chests rise and fall against the red soil. Others lift them with gentleness, not mockery. This, too, is training. The body learns to yield before it commands, to hold itself in stillness before it strikes in silence. And all the while, the elder chants do not waver. They flow like an underground stream, steady and sure. Bend without breaking, lift without harm, train in kindness. Become the storm's calm. The sun continues its ascent, and the women glow not from sweat alone, but from the harmony of exertion. Their movements speak of generations, of ancestors who once did the same beneath the same sky. Their shadows stretch long behind them, cast not merely by the sun, but by memory, by legacy. Even as their muscles tremble, their eyes soften in communion. A final chant rises. We are not one. We are woven. Our strength is the thread. Our will, the loom. And as you watch, as you breathe with them, you begin to feel it too. This strength is not loud. It is not proud. It is ritual. It is rhythm. It is sacred. And it is theirs. As the sun softens its descent and shadows stretch long, a different kind of trial begins. One not of strain alone, but of awareness. This is the hour where muscle meets mind, and the edge of will is honed like the blade of a sacred machete. The warriors gather near the outer forest edge, where tall grasses murmur in the wind. The air holds the scent of ironwood and the salt of sweat. It is quiet, not because nothing is spoken, but because everything is listened to, steamed to. They are handed their machetes, not polished weapons, but time-worn tools of both harvest and war. Each blade has its own story, etched in nicks and stains in the worn grip of its handle. They hold it as one might cradle a memory. The elders guide them into the bush, not in formation, but in silence. The forest receives them with rustling approval. Underfoot, dry leaves crackle like whispers. Birds overhead call out, not alarmed, but observant. They are instructed to carve paths, not wide, but precise, to cut only what resists, never what yields. With each swing, their focus deepens. The mind learns restraint. The body learns alignment. They do not rush. They do not strike wildly. They move like wind weaving through cane. The blade becomes an extension of breath, each motion purposeful, each pause a meditation. Some cut not with strength, but with balance. Others slow their pace to feel the resistance in each branch, measuring not the thickness, but the energy of the obstacle. The machete in their hand reflects the mind within. After hours in the forest, they return to a river that winds like a silver thread through the undergrowth. There, they wade silently into the current. The water is cool, washing away not only dust, but distraction. They submerge their faces, their limbs, their thoughts. Some float on their backs, eyes turned to the canopy. Others sit in the shallows, tracing ripples with fingers. The river is not just water. It is a teacher. A teacher of flow, of yielding, of patience. From the opposite bank, elders begin to recite tales, not of conquest, but of clarity. Stories of warriors who once lost their way in noise, only to find it again in stillness. The voices blend with the murmur of the stream, teaching without commanding. A woman once froze in battle, they say, overwhelmed not by the enemy, but by the chatter in her own mind. She returned to the river, and there, after nights of stillness and silence, the water stilled her thoughts. Then comes still meditation. In a grove of baobab, they sit cross-legged, palms open. The insects hum a rhythm, and the sun filters down in golden strands. They breathe and listen to their heartbeat, to the wind, to the lessons tucked within. Some sway gently, as if carried by invisible currents. Others rock forward and back, grounding themselves in rhythm. The earth beneath them is not hard. It is holding. The roots of the baobab stretch deep, and in their embrace, the warriors let go. This is sharpening, not of violence, but of vision, not of fear, but of focus. The mind is trained to see clearly without reacting. The body is taught to be ready without aggression. When they return to the compound, twilight has taken hold. Lamps flicker with oil-fed flames. And though no word is spoken, you feel the shift within them. They move more slowly now, but with purpose. They see more deeply now, but with peace. They sit before their evening meal, not ravenous, but grateful. They wash their hands in silence. They serve one another without instruction. Every act a meditation. And you, having followed them through vine and stream, begin to sense the subtle blade forming within you too. A quiet sharpness, a still strength, the beginning of a deeper becoming, the forging of the unseen weapon within. Night yields to the hush of early morning, a time when the stars still hang above like whispered thoughts. Beneath their faint glow, the Agoji gather once again, this time not to wrestle with earth or silence, but to embrace the ritual of weaponry. Weapons are not mere tools. Not here. They are ancestors reborn in steel and wood, in cord and powder. They are not gripped with fear, but with reverence. The training grounds echo with a still tension, not from noise, but from focus. Each warrior kneels beside her weapon of choice, a rifle, a machete, a bow strung tight with sinew. Their eyes close, their hands rest lightly, a breath held, a pulse counted. They begin with the rifles, long, flintlocked, heavy with memory. They are lifted slowly, not with show, but with ceremony. Each movement is practiced and precise. Powder is measured. The loading, a rhythm, click, slide, set. When the shots ring out, they do not startle the air. Instead, they merge with it, like thunder far away. The targets are trees, marked not with paint, but with symbols, circles for clarity, lines for patience. One by one, the women fire. And after each shot, silence follows, as though the weapon itself is listening. Not every aim is perfect, but no one is corrected with harshness, only with silence, until the body teaches itself. Then come the machetes. The same blades used earlier for the forest return to the hand now with new purpose. They are lifted and twirled in arcs that shimmer in the morning light. Choreographed, yet fluid. Each cut an echo of breath. They move in pairs now, not to harm, but to harmonize. One strikes, the other yields. One pivots, the other presses. The dance of blade and breath, of steel and skin, is ancient and alive. There is no panic, only flow. The sounds are not sharp, but smooth. The whisper of blade against bark, the rustle of movement through air. And finally the bows, made of wood shaped by river steam, strung tight with woven thread. Here, the lesson is not strength, but surrender. The pull of the string must come not from arm, but from center, from the place just beneath the rib cage where breath deepens. They aim into the sky at first, releasing arrows into wind, watching their paths curve like questions. No target, no pressure, only release. Later, they form lines. The targets now are gourds hung from trees, swaying with breeze. The challenge is not to strike, but to remain still when the gourd moves, to wait for its return, to know that time itself is the true test. Hours pass in this way, shot after shot, strike after strike, breath after breath. And when the sun is high, they rest in a circle, weapons placed before them like sleeping animals. They chant softly, each to her weapon, in thanks. To you, I lend my strength. From you, I borrow silence. Not all warriors speak these words. Some only hum. Others weep quietly. But all feel the bond between tool and hand, between warrior and wind. And you, watching from the edge of the sacred ground, begin to understand. These weapons are not of war. They are of will. They are not meant to destroy. They are meant to shape the self, the path, the silence that guides. And in this training, the Agojie do not prepare to take life. They prepare to honor it in every breath, in every strike, in every sacred step they take. There are teachings that whisper, and there are those that sear. This chapter in the training of the Agoji lies somewhere in between, a lesson felt not in the limbs, but in the soul's quiet trembling. Here, the women of Dahomey are led into the presence of something harder to face than fatigue or fire. They are led to witness. The field is bare and breathless, the grass no longer green, but ochre, turned by sun and memory. The elders stand in solemn silence, and before them, prisoners, those who have trespassed the kingdom, those condemned by law and lineage. The warriors in training form a circle, their breath shallow, their eyes uncertain. A ritual begins, not loud, not furious. It is quiet, eerily so. Drums do not thunder here. They murmur. Their rhythm is slow, like a heart reluctant to beat. Each woman is handed a dull blade, not sharp enough to kill swiftly, just enough to demand commitment. The first trial is to step forward, not to strike, but to face, to look into the eyes of mortality and not flinch. This is not cruelty. It is ceremony, a meditation on fear. Those who tremble are not shamed, but they are watched closely, not for weakness, but for honesty. Some approach with tears already streaming, not because they lack courage, but because they understand too well the weight of what is asked. The blade is not always used. Sometimes the act is symbolic, the hand raised, the breath held, the mind frozen in the moment between intention and release. This too is training. The lesson is not to kill. It is to see, to hold space with death, to sit with its silence, and not lose oneself. Later, stories are shared of ancestors who wept before they fought, of women who chose silence over scream, of strength forged not in fury, but in reflection. At night, the compound is hushed. The stars hang heavier. Sleep comes slowly. Some walk alone, retracing their thoughts beneath the moon. And yet, there is no despair, only a deepening, a hollowed space inside, carved not by violence, but by awareness. The next morning, the warriors return to the circle, their hands still steady, their hearts slower, but stronger. They have seen, and in the seeing, they have changed, not hardened, but deepened. And in that depth, a different kind of strength begins to bloom. One that does not need to shout. One that breathes through pain. One that knows silence is sometimes the loudest answer. When breath has quieted and vision deepened, there remains another lesson. One not taught by blade or chant, but by presence. This is where the Agojie learn the invisible bond that ties them. Not to the king, not to command, but to each other. They gather in twos and threes beneath the tall, whispering canopy of flame trees. Their hands are busy, tending to bruises, binding blisters, sharing quiet laughter that trembles on the edge of memory. Theirs is a closeness built not from speech, but from shared silence. One might help another braid her hair, the motion slow and gentle, fingers passing through strands, like threads weaving lineage and trust. Another wipes dust from a companion's cheek with the corner of her robe. No thanks are needed, no words expected. Later, they train in pairs, not to fight each other, but to feel the other's rhythm. They mirror movements, echo breath, follow the same patterns until it is unclear where one ends and the other begins. In combat drills, they form clusters, 4 or 5 women moving as one. A formation, yes, but also a heartbeat. One strikes, another covers. One falters, another steadies. Even in mock battle, they do not dominate. They support. They move like birds in migration, each carrying the lift of the one beside her. In the evenings, the stories return. Around the fire, one begins a tale. Another picks it up. A third hums the song that weaves through it. They speak of their mothers, of the first time they held a blade, of dreams before this path claimed them. They are not always solemn. Some stories bloom with laughter, full and rich, like the scent of yams baking beneath hot stones. Others are quiet offerings of grief shared and softened by time. This too is training, not of body, but of spirit, of becoming more than one, of learning that survival is not an individual feat, but a collective breath. When one warrior kneels at the end of a long day, her sisters surround her, not in pity, but in presence. A hand on her shoulder, a forehead touched gently to hers. Nothing spoken, everything understood. And so, brotherhood and sisterhood are not declared. They are lived. In the hush of dusk, in the low beat of the drum, in the quiet strength of being held. Together, they are the wind in tall grass, the hush before rainfall, the many made one. And you, watching from the shadows of the compound, feel it like warmth at your back, the bond, the breath, the belonging. The rhythm of training eventually meets the silence of real dawns, those not of meditation, but of warning. The agoge, steady now in body, breath, and bond, must finally face the storms gathering beyond the sacred grounds of Dahomey. The French arrive not with whispers, but with steel. Their ships line the coast like shadows against the horizon. Their men move in ranks, with eyes that see conquest rather than connection. But this is not the beginning of war. It is a moment stretched thin with tension, where every gust of wind seems to carry a question. The elders feel it in their bones. The land murmurs of it beneath bare feet. The king's summons is quiet. The agoge assemble not with panic, but with presence. They gather beneath the palaver tree, where generations of decisions have been whispered into its bark. This is where their final rites begin. Blessings are given, not for victory, but for vision, for clarity in chaos, for breath in fire. The march is long, through forest paths, across riverbeds, into the villages that will become memories by dusk. Their boots stir dust that clings to skin like memory. Each step hums with readiness. when they meet the French, there is no thunder of drums, no call to frenzy, only the slow rise of blades, the deep inhale before the first strike. The air trembles. Smoke curls like ghosts. The Agoji move not with fear, but with memory. They strike in harmony, not haste. And though the enemy's fire burns loud, the women move like water, flowing, returning, circling. Losses come. Bodies fall. Dust and blood and cries mingle. But so do songs. The old chants rise above the muskets, carried by voices that have learned to echo beyond pain. Even in retreat, they hold each other. Wounded are carried not with grief, but with grace. And when night falls, the sky blinks open with stars, as if mourning and remembering all at once. The battles span days, then weeks. The French push. The Agoje push back. Villages shift. Borders blur. But in each clash, a truth sharpens. These women do not fight to conquer. They fight to protect breath, to defend quiet, to remember who they are. By the end, the land is changed. Trees bear the scent of smoke. Rivers reflect new names. But the spirit of Dahomey, the hum beneath its soil, the echo of its women, remains. In every corner, touched by their step. In every branch, broken by their blade. In every silence, they guarded with their breath. Even the colonizers, hardened and cold, carry the memory of them, like ash that clings long after fire has slept. And you, watching from the edges of this unfolding dusk, begin to feel it too. The power of presence, the courage of breath, the echo of those who rose not for glory, but for each other. Now the fire is low. The chants have faded into memory, and the air carries only the hush of leaves brushing one another in the dark. You sit within the stillness, where once the Agoji stood, strong, breath-bound, and steady. Their steps no longer sound in the earth, yet something of them remains. A warmth in the soil, a pulse in the breeze, a quiet resilience embedded in the land. Time has folded gently over their names, pressing them into the pages of memory. Some are remembered. Naniska, Sedong Hongbe. Others, unnamed, drift as whispers through generations. But none are forgotten. The kingdom of Dahomey has changed. The palaces stand as echoes. The trees grow taller, their branches tangled with songs of those who once trained beneath them. The river still runs where warriors once bathed and breathed and sharpened their silence. Tourists may now walk the paths. Scholars may write. But the spirit of the Agoji cannot be studied. It must be felt, in the way twilight hushes a crowded street, in the way a woman walks with purpose, in the way strength does not speak, but steadies. And you, who have traveled through this dream, carry a piece of their breath within you now, a stillness forged in fire, a bond carved from breath, a whisper that says, you too can stand still in storm. You too can hold another without words. You too can be fierce without noise. So rest now. Let the echoes drift. Let the stars rise. Let the night close around you like a soft cloak. The Agoji have trained you in stillness, in strength, in the sacred art of breathing with your whole being. And in this final hush, may their legacy wrap around you like a lullaby, until dreams take you deeper, until morning finds you softened, until you too rise with quiet power and a memory in your bones. Sleep now. The warriors are watching over you, and the night, like them, holds you gently.